Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Cassie and I with another post 2024 election video. I'm Louise Edington, the Cosmic Owl Astrology, and I write daily on Substack. Substack's where the biggest focus of my work is at the moment. I also have what's called a Spiral Weave membership that you can access through YouTube or Substack for a small monthly amount, where we have monthly Ask Me Anything calls and other little treats and rewards. And I also have a private membership community on my website, louiseeddington.com, that goes even deeper into astrology and learning more about how to read charts. Kathy.
I'm Kathy Biehl. My forecasts are at my site, empowermentunlimited.net, and my YouTube channel, Professional Aquarian. I also have a Patreon with my name, patreon.com/Kathy Biehl, and I have a monthly Ask Me Almost Anything there at one of the membership levels, and daily sassy, quickie forecasts, among other things.
Cool. And I also have my YouTube channel, but
Cosmic Owl
Astrology. Yeah. And you can find these videos on both our channels. And today we are just kind of mixing it up a little bit because there was no one person that stood out in the news particularly. So we are just giving you a rundown of what's coming up aspect wise. And we've got a lot of things that have happened in the news. So Kathy has her list of the news. So I think we'll start there. And it's extensive. So dive in, Kathy.
Right. Grab yourself a cup of coffee, tea, or something stronger.
Mhm.
I always like to start with things that happened since our previous forecast that played out what we said was going to happen. And the last week or so, we warned you about secrets coming out, big news, big revelations, purging, releasing, shocking events, and some kind of sudden change involving leadership. All right, so keeping all this in mind, I've tried to group my notes into categories. I'll start with the stuff that's kind of fun and symbolic. Harvard Law Library has had what they thought was just a copy of the Magna Carta, and last week figured out, no, it's real. And I think this is hysterically funny symbolism because the Magna Carta limited the king's powers drastically, and Harvard is fighting back very much against the executive order trying to get it. All right. Bad news for the Confederacy. A plantation burned in New Orleans. In D.C., the Calamara mansion burned, and it was home to someone who had 17 enslaved individuals. And in North Carolina, a tree fell on and crushed a museum to the Confederacy. Make of that what you will. Um, Okay, now in the he's losing category, the Associated Press won reinstatement to the White House press pool. A judge struck down the Michigan abortion restrictions. That's on the state level. Um, Arizona indicted at the fake election, the fake electors. So state indictments for the fake electors from the 2020 election in Arizona. A court blocked deportation and other flights and ordered flights back. And the judge said he will impose criminal contempt against the officials and the pilot if they don't comply, because planes are now going to Libya, Sudan, nothing that has anything to do with where the deportees are from. Um, Hold on, I'm having trouble. I have to put my glasses on. Justice Kagan told the Solicitor General during oral arguments, "You're wrong and you keep losing." More detainees, more ICE detainees have been freed. And the revelation came out in one lawsuit that Defense Department planes are transporting detainees. And so maybe the Defense Department is involved in all this too. All right. Newark mayor was arrested for trespass charge, and then the charges were dropped. The New Jersey representative who was present when the Newark mayor was arrested for trespass charges has been indicted. The Wisconsin judge has been indicted for letting um, people that ICE was after out of her courtroom when they did not have a judicial warrant. Um, there is now threat of investigating Andrew Cuomo for statements he made about COVID as election interference. They've got massive weaponization going on. Former FBI Director James Comey was called in for questioning by the Secret Service because he posted a photo of seashells spelling out four numbers. And Florida state investigation into the Hope, Florida supposed nonprofit that Casey DeSantis had for probably misusing COVID money. All of these things fit the themes that we've been talking about going on with the Scorpio full moon and really strong aspects involving Mercury, communication, Pluto, and Mars. All right, there's more. All right, so in the transportation end of this, New Jersey Transit trains were shut down in a labor strike, and it was resolved. But while that was going on, two more sinkholes appeared in another major freeway in New Jersey, the Garden State Parkway, and a sewage drain or something like that formed an additional sinkhole on the existing interstate problems. Okay, so there's something going on in New Jersey. Mexican ship in training with lots of party lights and people on the masts went into the Brooklyn Bridge, and two people were killed and lots of them were injured. Coast Guard cuts, whatever. House Republicans passed a bill out of committee that would allow deporting citizens. There's more. Hold on. Okay. In the Sun conjunct Uranus and Algol end of this, so the possible changes to ahead, the head of Department of Homeland Security admitted to Congress that she does not know the meaning of the term habeas corpus. Um, Biden's cancer diagnosis was announced with the full moon on his Sun, Venus, and Mercury. Um, Revelation that Trump solicited the plane from Qatar, and
Mhm.
now the Department of Defense has accepted it. It
Oh,
still will not be
oh,
ready for years.
somebody said it's Qatar. It's not Qatar. But
I know.
in Europe we say Qatar. So you Americans always,
Right. Well, and I didn't say ER. I said A. I looked it up. I had a client
yeah.
who worked there, who was an engineer. That was the way he pronounced it. Qatar. There we go. That's the
I know.
country I'm talking
I
about.
just want I just want to acknowledge the comment you said. Yeah.
Okay, but more. All right. RFK Jr., the head of Health and Human Services, said people shouldn't take medical advice from him. And also, very appropriate for the scorpionic aspect of all this, he took his grandkids swimming in Rock Creek, which is supposed to be closed to swimming because of the high bacterial content, because sewage flows into it. Make of that what you will. The head of CBS News quit uh, because she disagrees with what the network is doing with the Trump administration. Um, Cory Booker shot his entire political credibility after having that 25-hour speech in the Senate by being the only Democrat to vote for convicted felon Charles Kushner's um, appointment as the ambassador to France. Kushner was one of the major funders of Booker's first run for mayor, or his first successful. He backed him when he was mayor of Newark. Okay, so that's there. I got more. Hold on. Mm, 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 mm,
Can
mm,
I
mm.
can I just give a little plug for my way back when astrology? Cassie mentioned Kagan from the Supreme Court, and I do have to say I said when Coney Barrett was seated on the court that she would be a slightly squeaky wheel. I said slightly, and she is being, and MAGA hates her now. So there you go.
Well, that's part of this too, I suppose.
Oh.
Um, Now you'll recall in the playing out the Mars-Pluto opposition and more things happening with that, Romania last fall had a court overturn its election because of fiddling with things by Starlink showing up 2 weeks before the election and the Putin-backed candidate coming out of nowhere. So they held their election again, and the non-Putin candidate won. All right. More. Okay. The purge aspect of the full moon in Scorpio. Um, the FBI director is talking about moving the office out of DC. Okay. 70% of the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division attorneys, let me say that again, 70% of the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division lawyers have resigned because the division has moved from actually enforcing civil rights to enforcing executive orders.
Mhm.
Shift in focus. And there was a leak that a top aide to Tulsi Gabbard, she's the director of national intelligence, ordered rewriting an intelligence assessment that contradicted Trump's claims about Venezuelan gangs.
Mhm.
And let's wait, there's more. Uh, in the sex and sordid scandal potentials of all this, in P. Diddy's trafficking trial, which has just started and fits with this sex trafficking, his assistant has testified that the Trump New York hotels were his favorite haunts for his parties. And finally, no, two more things. In the money aspect of it, I had mentioned cryptocurrency could be something in the news. The Genius Act, which is a bill regulating or maybe not so much cryptocurrency, has left committee and it's now up for a vote. The budget bill passed the House that explodes the deficit, among many, many other things. And aside from all of this, Finland, oh, another money thing. Finland is using frozen Russian assets to get ammunition to Ukraine.
I,
So the point of all
oh,
this is,
yeah. Can I just say I am so glad Cassie has been on this because I was I was on traveling all last weekend and then came home and slept for 36 hours with some virus. So I've missed half of this. So I'm like, oh, that happened too. Anyway, go on.
no, the point of this is this particular stretch of time is incredibly rich, and a lot of things have come to light that very likely will have some staying power, and we'll be talking about them a lot next week, which we'll get into in a second. But my point always with this is to encourage you to have bits of our forecasts kind of get into the back of your mind. So
Mhm.
when you're watching the news and you hear something, after you get past your immediate emotional reaction to so much of this, to stop and say, oh, that's playing out the astrology.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I write daily on Substack and give a list of the aspects right at the bottom, and that those posts are free. So if you want to come back in and check, the aspects, and I write them out, so it's not just the symbols. So if you don't get all the symbols, you can find them. So just as a reminder, but we're going to go through the days coming up aspect wise. And are we ready for that now?
Well, I just like to preface this with there's
Hmm.
a pattern going on because of where certain outer planets are. So there's a regular, recurring, predictable pattern of something intensifying or maybe stripping down, maybe huge scandal, then things stabilizing a bit, and
Mhm.
then the opportunity for getting the higher purpose or some inspiration of what we're going to do about it. So that's an ongoing theme, and I'm asking Louise to go through the aspects since you've heard me talk so much this time.
And I would kind of like to say as well, because, I always love to look at the cycles, that not only that is that we have all these things kind of moving on. I've mentioned it a few times. During March and April, particularly, we were in this intense period of kind of release, purging, everything's coming to light. And now Venus has moved past where she was retrograde. Jupiter's moved past where that was retrograde. Mars is past where their retrograde began. Everything's really moving forward, and the planets are starting to move quickly. Yes, we get the outer planets going retrograde, but as these faster moving planets really gain speed, things are going to start changing really fast. So,
May I slip one thing in that I neglected that's actually a bizarre playing out of
mm,
the Sun Uranus algol?
mm,
Um, there's a really controversial character outside of Houston, uh, George Colliam, called King George, who founded the Texas Renaissance Festival, which is the biggest one in the country, and it's been going on for 50 years. And he
mm.
founded a town also as part of it. And he has been the mayor of the town for decades and decades and decades. An HBO documentary has just come out recently about all of the scandals. I worked there. It's highly so scandals about that. He lost the mayoral election just a few weeks ago, and a court ordered him to complete a sale of all of the property in the festival that he had a contract to sell it. He didn't pursue it. He just let it go, even though everybody else had done what they were supposed to do. So he was ordered to perform the contract. He lost the mayoralship. Why am I bringing this up? Because he was found dead of what looks like a bullet
Oh,
during all of this. And I'm going to put my money on suicide to the head. It
yeah.
hasn't been revealed yet. So this is King George. Okay, so all this stuff is highly symbolic. It's happening in all kinds of areas, not just the places that are huge, but it's happening on smaller levels as well.
And I did not know about the Magna Carta. And
Isn't that hysterical?
being from the UK, that I'm like, oh, I'm going to go and read about that now. But anyway,
Apparently there are several originals, like
oh,
several things that were contemporary
mm,
versions of it or editions of it.
interesting. So the aspects. Shall I share the chart as we go through them, or shall I just list them? Yeah, let's do that. So we're actually starting on May the 24th, which is a very big day to start with. So on that day, Mercury, finishing up its journey through the sign of Taurus, is first conjunct Algol, the demon star, said to be, and Uranus. And I'll just list the aspects first, and then we'll go kind of talk about it a little bit. And the Sun, and now in Gemini, is making an air trine to Pluto just before that as well. So we'll look at that, which is an unbroken flow aspect. That blue line there, you can see it. And then Saturn, at the end of the very end of the day, moves into Aries. It will be early on the 25th for many of you because this map's, I can actually, no, I'll just leave it. It doesn't really matter. It's
Yep.
set for where I am. So, but to my mind, well, Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, and the Sun is in Gemini, and Mercury is about to move into Gemini. Mercury is kind of the lower mind, or more of kind of our rational, everyday thinking and communication. And Uranus is breakthroughs, breakdowns, kind of higher mind in a way, or bigger picture mind, if you like. And Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. So we have, Pluto and the Sun aspecting each other, and both the rulers of those signs conjunct one of the most powerful fixed stars in the sky. This, to my mind, is going to bring huge news, huge, shocking, potentially news, secrets revealed. Pluto always digs up the excrement, so to speak, or the shadow that needs to be revealed. And with all of this being so mercurial and Uranian, it just feels like it's going to be around values, money as well. It's going to, and bear in mind, this could be in the lead up to it. So some of it could be like Friday night drops in the news, right? And we'll deal with Saturn in a minute. What do you have to say about all of that,
What
Cassie?
I have to say about that is that Mercury-Uranus pairing makes me think of Benjamin Franklin flying a kite and pulling electricity down. So there could be a information coming out of seemingly nowhere. Your mind could just explode with understanding. This is massive aha. And with the sun in that contact to Pluto, all these together could be you saying, that's it,
Mm,
and knowing your own mind and saying, I'm not putting up with fill in the blank. I have a new approach toward fill in the blank.
mm,
And we could be seeing this collectively as well with Pluto in the sign of the collective. So one
mm,
possibility is word finally starting to ripple out to the populace in the United States about what this budget bill will reshape in their lives. And I encourage you to look it up because it's a lot more than money. It's a whole lot more than money. And this could be the no, you don't, the beginning of the no you don't moment.
it could. And just one shout out for you guys know I love to use all my extras. The galactic center is at 27 Sagittarius, so making an unbroken flow an aspect of adjustment to that Mercury Uranus conjunction. And that's in the sign of, new truths coming to light or suddenly seeing the truth kind of thing of what's really going on. That just kind of adds to it a little bit, I think, as well. So it's a very big day. And like I said, it could happen in the lead up to it,
Mhm.
but the fact that Mercury hits Algol and Uranus on the same day and they are the rulers of this aspect between the Sun and Pluto, is huge, to be quite honest. So, and then Saturn moves. You want to say anything else about that?
All I'll say about that is there could be something about what's been done with computers or computer systems
Oh,
as a
yeah.
part of this. And additionally, I had so much on my list, I forgot this. There's suddenly a lot of talk again on social media about what actually happened in Butler, Pennsylvania last summer when supposedly a bullet grazed someone's ear. And a photo has surfaced of him sitting next to the young man who ended up being shot on the roof. Um,
Really? Oh, I hadn't seen that. Ah,
so there could be more about
mm.
that situation coming out,
I
more
had
about, yeah,
I had noticed that popping up, and I do want to say that that's when Uranus and Algol were conjunct before.
right.
So
Yes.
it's bringing all of that back. So, woof. Anyway, then late that evening, 9:37 my time, Mountain, 11:37 Eastern, Saturn moves into Aries for the first time. Saturn will be in Aries till September the 1st and will then move back into Pisces and go back to 25 Pisces for a little while. But we're going to start to get a real flavor of Saturn in Aries. And Saturn in Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's initiation, it's new things, it's drive, it's will, it's Mars guided, and Saturn is very determined. But it's kind of got this wriggle to it that Neptune is there, and we've had Neptune in Aries for a little while. And Neptune in Aries is not only confusion, but it's kind of more spiritual warrior kind of energy, you could call it. The two will not meet till early next year, exactly after they've both been back into Pisces. But look at this, they're so close. This is going to give us a real flavor of what this period is going to bring. And, they're going to be traveling together for quite a while. So, I also think of Neptune in Aries as clouds clearing. All right. And Saturn brings clarity too. So, combined with all the other stuff going on, real clarity, people suddenly seeing through this fog of gaslighting, delusion, illusion, lies, manipulation that we've had experiencing in all areas of life, and starting to see more clearly what's going on. Would you add to that then?
What I would add to that is that it's Saturn and Neptune are making a sextile, which is an opportunity aspect, to Pluto retrograde in Aquarius. And as Pluto moves backwards, that sextile is going to get tighter and tighter. And I think it's exact in July.
Mhm.
So there's a process that's starting of the collective of people on an individual level seeing more and more what they're capable of doing. Saturn and Aries could have a piece of I claim what I can do. I've been talking a lot about a new style of big kid pants coming out of this.
Mhm.
And historically, well, the last time Saturn and Neptune traveled this tightly together in this sign was in the middle of the 1800s. So we can look back to then, and slavery was abolished. Yes, the Civil War started, but there are other things that have happened that indicate this could be bringing physical form, bringing the idealism of Neptune down into physical form, and the spiritual, or rather, even just like idealistic mission vibe erupting in a lot of people and not going away and being spread through online communities.
And to add to the comment about the sextile to Pluto, those two, well, Neptune particularly and Pluto, they've been in kind of an ongoing sextile for a while, but Uranus will be moving into Gemini, forming
Mm.
what's called this mini grand trine. The sun's kind of activating that right now. And, astrologically, three outer slow moving planets, all changing signs together, adding in Saturn, has not been has not happened in recorded history that we can find. And to add to it again as well, Ceres, who I'm publishing my book on, is conjunct these two as well. And she's about our needs met and unmet. And in Aries, I would say she is very much about we've got to, it's up kind of up to us, big girl panties or big person panties or whatever you want to call it, saying, we have to make sure our needs are met and then the needs of others as well. And interestingly, Ceres is right at the new Venus star point, which was on March 22nd, 2 degrees, almost to the minute as Saturn moves in. And the last time Saturn and Neptune were actually conjunct in Aries, close to 0 degrees, which is where they'll be conjunct next, it was in 936 BCE when they met at 2 degrees Aries. So we've got some huge cycles being activated here, right? And 936 to where we are now in 2025 is about an astrological age. It's they've met before in Aries, as Cassie mentioned. There's been other times. Russia usually does badly under them, by the way.
Yeah.
Might start to see more about Russia's failing economy and all things like that. But this ingress, which is Saturn moving into Aries, is huge. And yes, they don't meet yet, but it's activating all the things. Things are going to start happening with it. So, yeah.
We
Any
could we could be in the middle of a let them eat cake moment, and
Oh,
we know what happened from that.
that was a funny laugh, Louise. So anyway, so Mercury, and this will be, just to say the let them eat cake, I think will be to people like Cory Booker as well, who've, trashing their career, because we've got to say there's a lot wrong with all of what's going on. So anyway, May the 25th, the next day, Mercury moves into its own sign, Gemini, and immediately makes a lovely aspect of opportunity, sextile to Saturn in Aries. So fire and air, determination, Mercury really strong in its own sign. I think it's going to be reflected in many ways, not only about clarity of what people are seeing and understanding. It's going to bring new perspectives, but it's also going to bring a determination to speak truth and say, no, no, we're not doing this. No.
Yeah, passion and energy. And there may not be a lot of premeditation to it
Oh.
with Aries being involved.
Mhm.
So this to me says there will be a lot of talk next week. Actually, Mercury pretty much rules next week. He's in charge of everything. He's the planet of I think I said in my forecast, this week is brought to you by the planet Mercury
Oh.
because he's involved in all of the really big action going on with one
Mhm.
big exception. So, and notice that Mercury is first going to have that contact with Saturn, and then he's going to have that contact with Neptune. So this is following in the footsteps of what the Sun has been through. The Sun touched on uh, uh, Neptune, then had a conversation with Pluto, and now that Saturn is at the start of the zodiac, every planet that changes signs is going to start there.
Yeah. And also, I would mention again, going back to that period during March and April, Ceres still at where the Venus star point was, March the 22nd, which was when the Sun was cazimi with Venus, or Venus was cazimi with the Sun, rather, conjunct. Mercury was also retrograde in those signs at that time, going back from 9 Aries to 25, I think, Pisces. Anyway, so Mercury is kind of speaking to all that big period that was so intense and is the things that are emerging from that time now, in my opinion. So that's what we're finding out, kind of their plans, which is very Mercury and Gemini as well. I think it's clear now that everything that was promised by the administration was not what they're actually planning on doing, as we suspected. So on to May the 26th. This is kind of going to really go by quite fast. So Mercury, oh, that's
It's
because
going
I
to be,
put I
yeah.
put square, sorry. So let me get it. May the 26th is Mercury is sextile to Neptune. That's an aspect of opportunity. And we have a Gemini new moon that day as well, with Mercury conjunct. So again, very mercurial. Now, with Neptune, even though it's a supportive aspect and an aspect of opportunity, there could be more things, clarity, clouds clearing, revelation, but also more kind of confusion as well about really, is this kind of what's going on, and not being quite sure what to think, especially in the dark of the moon. I think things will start to become clearer after the new moon, I think, on this day as we go into this dark moon phase.
I'd like to interject the word misdirection
Mm, that's
into
a good
this.
word for it. Yeah. Yeah, especially in that dark moon, shadows, things like, yeah, very good word for it. Yeah. Anything else to say about
Oh,
that?
no, nope, you've got it.
We'll go on to the 27th, which I think is a big day as well. So, Chiron, first of all, Chiron is going to conjunct a table turner, or shit stirrer, I will say. Eris in Aries at 25 degrees. Now, Eris moves really slowly. She's been at 25 degrees for a long time, but Chiron is moving ahead and has caught up to Eris. And Chiron is both the wound, and she is the medicine for the wound as well. It's kind of like that where the light gets in. And this is Aries is kind of our identity, and we can see how people's identities are being really kind of under attack. You know, women, LGBTQ, all the, people of color, they are really under attack. But this is like, okay, what can we do about it? She is saying no. Eris is saying, I stand up for outsiders. I'm going to shake some tables. Again, it's kind of a big no. Eris has kind of this reputation for being hateful, but I think she's only really hateful because she hates what's done to outsiders by, you know, elites. That was the story of her, if you want to go and read her myths. And that's the start of the day. Before Kathy comes in, let me also mention that Mercury again will is over here, will make a supportive aspect of opportunity to Ceres. Remember, she's our needs met and unmet. And she will, Mercury will also make an unbroken flow trine aspect to Pluto, right? Pretty much all on the new moon, which is Mercury guided. So, you know, all of that, more fire and air. Again, it's in the dark of the moon, though, you know, so a lot of this kind of might not emerge for a day or so until the moon starts to gain light. But look at this aspect here, that's everything's really speaking to each other. So people will start to see in the dark about this misdirection, great word, and start to say, no, no, we're not doing this. Take action again. And I'm just going to have to let my cat out while Kathy talks.
All right. Well, I'm going to kind of go backwards. So, M Mercury, the Mercury Pluto aspect brings a level of intensity that you don't often associate with Gemini. So it's going to stir up a lot of really deep things, stuff from the shadows, more about secrets. It's also going to get everybody, the general conversations, honing in on maybe survival, honing in on what is absolutely most important. So there could be big shifts in how we use social media growing out of what happens at this. You know, there are certain times, you've seen it lately, when suddenly masses of people leave one platform and go to another. This one could precipitate that. The other um, thing I want. Well, and remember that since this is happening as a new moon is seeding, there's going to be a long process going on. And I also want to address the uh, Eris and Chiron together. That pair,
I'm just moving the chart to the 27th, so you know. So.
so Eris and Chiron, so in this chart, Eris and Chiron are up in the ninth house of social policy, legislation, relationships with
Mhm.
foreign countries. And it's that conjunction is in between sextiles to Pallas Athena
Mhm.
in Aquarius. So there's an element of strategizing and planning. And also it's moved off a sextile to Jupiter in Gemini. So there will be a lot of talk in Congress, a lot of talk out in public. And I think this is going to bring the whole what's going on with immigration, what's going on with sending people to countries that they're not from, what's going on with using the military and strategizing and planning something having to do with that. That is going to be a piece of it. Yes, there will be a whole lot more, but I'm thinking on a collective level, that will be one piece. And then on another level, it will be why are the little people taking the hit so that the few big people can get better. So whatever is going on with this budget, which by the way, initially got out of committee overnight from a Sunday to Monday and then was put up for a vote at 1 in the morning, with many Republican members of Congress not being given the actual text of the bill until the very last minute. I think that that is going to get talked about more and more and more and more and more. And I recall when the Affordable Care Act was on the line, people were actually flooding the halls of Congress. Would not be surprised if that doesn't start happening again.
Yeah. And I'm just going to kind of skip over May the 28th, but continuation of this, Ceres and Pluto perfect their aspect of opportunity. That's, the secrets digging in and saying, no, I'm going to take action on this. But I do want to move to May the 30th, where we have a Mercury Cazimi right after, well, it's May the 29th, my time, very late, May the 30th for most of you. And this is at 9 Gemini. So, the moon has moved, not quite, the moon is starting to gain light, but not a huge amount. But Mercury Cazimi is usually when there's a real like moment of huge clarity and ahas again. And in Gemini, its own sign, that's a really powerful moment of conjunction that is going to kind of reveal most things, in my opinion, and change perspectives. Mhm.
Yeah, you'll know your own mind very well by this point.
Oh, yeah. So there is one more day I would like to look at, and on that day, Venus moves forward and will conjunct Eris and Chiron. I've mentioned this before, but this is quite the conjunction, actually. These three all at 25 degrees. So first, Venus will meet Eris, table turner, Chiron, medicine and the wound. Venus, values, relationships, all those kind of things. She's still not gained speed, if you notice. Can you see that, Cassie?
Yeah.
She's actually still moving slow after her retrograde. This software always gives me the speed, which I love. So that means it's kind of grinding down even more. And I really think this moment, these three meeting together, coming on the back of all these revelations and ahas and the news and what people are seeing and starting to understand, is a really kind of powerful moment of kind of saying, not on my watch. You are not doing this. And so determined to say no.
And that sextile Pallas Athena.
Hmm.
So, and I'm thinking, watch the rage of women arise. And there may be some figures embodying this
Oh, yeah.
that that show up, and people being really pissed off as well, because look at Mars and the moon in a
Mhm.
trine. They're opposite Pallas Athena, but they're in a trine. So is this a male-female problem? Is this the populace joining in and saying, we're fighting mad, we're going to do something about this? Could
Oh,
be.
could be. I'm actually going to move the moon back a little bit. So just to kind of, so if we go back a little bit earlier on that day, oh no, that's not. Moon sextile Venus, I think. I just want to show you that really the moon on that day is, oh, I can't get it right. June the 1st. Anyway, let me just go back to June the 1st. The moon really is,
Got the 27th up.
I know, I'm
Oh,
just,
okay.
yeah,
All right.
I'm just
Oh,
changing.
sorry. I'll shut up.
Yeah.
Here we go. I apologize.
So the moon was in Leo here way back when, opposing Pallas Athena. So I could bring it back to that. But talking about all those aspects that we had, those at 25 degrees, the moon at 25 degrees was opposing Pallas Athena. So, they're all speaking to each other at the same degrees at some point on that day, on June the 1st. And really that kind of so I'm going to go back moon trine Chiron, so because I just want to, or let me do the opposition to Pallas Athena, because she is justice, if you remember, everybody. So So there you go. Moon opposing Pallas Athena, 25 degrees, 25 degrees, 25 degrees, 25 degrees, 25 degrees. This is a very powerful aspect. And really, it's forming a T square to Uranus and Algol, which we kind of started this whole report with. And I'd kind of like to leave it at that chart. We're going to have one quick look at the only personal chart we're going to look at, but I'll let Kathy see if she wants to say anything more. Now I've got the chart lined up where I wanted it to be. But,
Well, this is a lot of action and talk and energy and forward push, and
and
it
the
will be
moon is the people as well
the
in the
people.
name. Yeah.
And the people are motivated and they are, I don't know, this could be fighting mad. This could very well have something to do with women's issues, with our values, with fighting for what we believe in, and just being, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore moment. And
Mhm.
toxic masculinity could be a factor. That's something I always see with Chiron in Aries.
Mm, I do.
And
Yeah.
and this is bringing in someone who's in a position of power being toppled or getting attacked or taking the hit for it.
I would agree, yeah.
We'll see.
And when I talk about toxic masculinity, I'm not just talking about males, I'm talking about people like Pam Bondi and, who are just, honestly. But anyway, let me get the other chart up.
All right. So
I'm going to put her on the inside. And Kamala, I mean, will she be back doing more? Because there's so many activations on this chart. But Jupiter has passed her ascendant and her north node in Gemini, but her prenatal Venus star point is at 28 Gemini on that day. So that's being activated. Um, Uranus and Algol and Mercury have all been hitting her Jupiter in her 12th house. This conjunction is all pretty close to her moon, the people. But she's having a Mars return as well, with the moon on it a bit earlier that day. There's just so many activations on this chart. And, I'm not saying that she's going to be reinstated again, but she is likely to be really speaking out at least. So, what do you say, Kathy?
Jupiter moving across her ascendant and crossing her north node is her coming out of the shadows and being much, much, much more prominent.
Mhm.
And if it's hitting her prenatal star point, good grief.
Yeah.
And it's in an opportunity aspect to her relationship with the people, to her drive, to what she fights for. And she does have a fighter moon. This is a I will kick your teeth in moon.
Mhm.
And Jupiter in the sky is trining her sun. And it's Pallas Athena is going on to her Saturn. She is going to appear more and more and more as the adult in the room, as the sober one, as the sane one, and as the fighter coming out. So, those of you who have been complaining about where has she been, what she's been doing, she hasn't been doing enough, uh, I think she's going to be fairly ubiquitous
Mhm.
with this happening and really, really powered up. And the Mars return is rebooting, refreshing, starting a new cycle in how she pushes herself out in the world. She has Mars in the house of communication, and she
Mhm.
has Mars in the sign of the sun, which is herself. So I see her putting herself out more and more and more and more and more and fighting for the people, for women. She's going to be a force.
Mhm. I think so. And well, I'm not going to go into the whys and wherefores, but I agree. She's just going to be majorly out there. And so to go back to all this energy at the beginning of Aries, traditionally, well, Mars rules Aries, but traditionally Mars also rules Scorpio, and her Mercury is at one Scorpio. So this this pile up at the beginning of Aries is also activating her Mercury, so pushing her forward as she's having a Mars return. And you know, Mercury and Scorpio, they um, get, no wonder she was a prosecutor and gets to the
Right.
bottom of things, let's say, kind of thing, because Scorpio likes to delve deep, right? So, you know, so you know, there's so much going on for her chart. It's I'm quite excited to see what comes out personally.
I'll just remind people that when Venus entered Aries and then met with Neptune, and then hit Pluto. Suddenly, she reappeared. She was at a conference or organization called Emerge. And then she was at the Met Gala. That's Venus and Pluto, huge money. And then and also art. And then
Mhm.
she talked at a major fundraiser. That's also Venus Pluto. And we haven't heard from her a little bit. There's been a lot of speculation, but when Saturn hits Aries, I think there will be an amping up and a hi, and all of this by early June, by the beginning of June. She's on fire. You saw what she was able to do in 100 days last year. Do not think that it cannot be recreated and taken further.
Yeah. And to go back to the Mercury Sun conjunction, it was at 9 Gemini, if anybody remembers, and that's making an aspect of opportunity to her Eris. Now, almost everybody around born around those years has Eris at 10 degrees of Aries, but she's Mercury ruled, and so you know, this conjunction is really huge for her. And her Eris is on the cusp of her 11th house, which is politics, the people, community, all of those things. It just kind of adds to, you know, fire and air, Gemini and Aries saying, I'm coming out, kind of thing. Lots of things happening. And then Pallas Athena will come up to her Saturn, which is and Jupiter is already, as well, Cassie pointed out, and I drew it on, you know, this air grand trine. Oh, look for her speaking out, because
Quite a bit.
I still maintain she would have been one of the most progressive presidents we've had in decades, had she been fully able to kind of say what she wanted to do. I don't think she was at the time, but we're where we're at, right? So, so look what we're up against. Really, it's, you know, to look at Eris again, you know, to think of this big conjunction. And a quick rundown, you know, Eris was the sister of Aries, Mars, really. And she was not invited to the wedding of the elites. So if this reminds everybody about it, and she threw in the apple of discord, which um, caused the elites to fight amongst each other, and that led to the fall of Troy. She's often blamed for causing the Trojan War, but really no, she just pointed out that it was the elites' actions that were causing all these problems, and that's how I see her anyway. So put that into today's context. Let them eat cake. Anything else you want to say, Kathy?
Just keep your eyes and ears open.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be hopping, will be a whirlwind of information, flying more and more and more. And
Mm-hmm.
you'll notice how you feel empowered, what you feel like you can do something about. This is not collapsing in a fetal position on the floor, going, poor me. No, 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 no. This is all kinds of people continuing to stand up, to band together, to figure out what they can do and to make things and to start fighting a
Yeah.
lot.
Whether it's making calls, emailing, walking, you know, marching, or, you know, I chose to focus locally because I've got limited time and there's a place for everybody. So, you know, I first vice chair of the Progressive Caucus. We've actually got quite big plans to do stuff here locally. It takes a village. It takes everybody to do something. So if you look at it all and go, but there's so much, just do one thing. If everybody does one thing, it's a lot. So, yeah. But also self care first. Always self care first, because then you won't have the energy to go out and do anything if you don't do that. So for now, yeah, next week I think there's going to be a lot to talk about, and I'm away for the weekend again, so we'll be looking at all of that and coming back next week to do a deep dive. So for now, goodbye from me.
And I'll leave everyone with letting you know that I'm giving a talk by Zoom about Neptune and Saturn and Neptune in Aries throughout history on Sunday, June
Mm,
1st. And there is a link for it on the topmost orange banner on my site, empowermentunlimited.net. So I'll leave you with
cool,
that.
awesome.
All right. Bye.
Bye.